So now we're recording. So to get us started today, I'm going to introduce Teagen Andrews. So Teagen is the vice president of our organization at Impact, and she's a graduate student in the Master's in Sustainable Management program. But before she joined us as a demon, she was she started her own Eco Solutions company, doing sustainability consulting and particularly in waste management, and then now is an environmental sustainability data analyst at Diversified Waste Solutions, which is a national waste consulting firm. So because I personally wanted to ask her about her background and starting her business, I thought she would be a great feature for our open hours because she's one of us, but yet has started and run her own company and is now, coming back to school. So take it away, Teagen.
Thank you so much, Ginny, and thank you everyone for being here. So if you have yet to attend one of our open hour events, these are very casual. So feel free to drop a question in the chat box or chime in, or if there's something that I spoke on that you have more insight on or you want to continue that conversation, we can do it here. I'm also always available offline, well, not offline, via email, phone, just off the Zoom link. So I did put together a little bit of information about my background, and what I really wanted to share with everyone today was my journey. This is and not like my journey, like I'm going to talk only about me. No, I'm specifically going to talk about what hiccups I faced and what resources I used to help me find my startup, identify the market, identify the need, and identify how I was going to go about it. I also wanted to share with all of you resources that are going to be vital to your job search. I think you're here and we're here because we are looking for these connections and this guidance on how to generate those networking relationships that are going to land us jobs in sustainability, whether that be social or environmental impact, sustainability. I believe that's why we're all here. So if at any time you want to veer off, you think I'm not getting too into it or I'm getting too far off of it, please chime in. This is a casual conversation and I'm just a student like you. So please bear with me on this next set. I am going to share my screen, but I don't always function well with technology. So what we're gonna do, here we go, screen share. I'm gonna share this.
Well, and while Teagen is doing that, I just wanna say, so this is intended to be, an active, interactive question answer session. So please, if you have a question, put on your audio, go ahead and ask it. Teagen is here to answer your questions. And you can also, of course, use the chat function as well, which I will be monitoring and make sure that your question gets asked and answered.
And am I sharing my screen?
You are indeed.
Okay. Does it look like you have an open PDF or do you just see the slide?
It looks like an open PDF.
Okay, nope, that didn't help. Thank you all for bearing with me. I just want you to know it is a struggle being this technologically challenged in 2020. And yes, I'm a data analyst, and yes, I use a lot of technology, and yes, I use a lot of swears. Not here, but just when I'm doing my work. So hi.
I mean, you're not alone.
If you saw any of our social media marketing, you saw this lovely picture of me in a dumpster. My background is in sustainable waste management. And I actually, here's the host organization info that you all saw earlier. I actually started in sustainability when I was graduating with my bachelor's degree way back when in 2012. And I was coming out of school young and hopeful. And while I was in business school, I've always been an environmentalist, but I didn't know that I was going to go to school for environmental work. I did not know that that was going to be my career path until business school in 2012. So that's kind of where this journey started for me. I didn't always know what I was going to be. I didn't grow up with a love of garbage. I didn't. I don't think anybody does. And so it's been a very interesting path. And if there's one thing you take away from this today, it's that there's not one designated path. So my background, I do have a finance background. I worked for Fifth Third Bank. It's a regional bank for many years, which was phenomenal. It showed me, taught me a lot about just the finance sector and what you need to know as a business person. And it also showed me how much was wrong with what we have going on in our, not only financial sector, but, our capitalist sectors. So while I was working for Fifth Third Bank, I was going to school for my bachelor's. It was basically business school, and halfway through I pivoted to an environmental sustainability management degree. And while I was in school, I actually had this opportunity drop in my lap to work for a friend of ours doing a music festival, and he needed somebody to run his green team. So I'm in business school, I ran this little green team, and I thought, oh my gosh, I really like this. What I also saw when I did that, did the green team, was that there's a massive need for re-education on waste management. Between what people think is recycling versus not recycling, between people just thinking recycling is completely broken, which they're not all wrong. I identified that need right away. And so I slowly kind of put those little pieces together. And when I left school, I thought, wow, that's great. That's what I want to do. I want to help festivals. I want to help organizations. I want to help people rethink their waste. And so I'll get a consulting job with, a socially and environmentally oriented organization who works in this. And what I found in 2012 is those intro positions, they really didn't exist. It was 5 to 10 years experience in a C-suite level sustainability position. There wasn't internships for sustainable programs. There wasn't, job opportunities really out there for someone who's fresh out of school, looking to get that experience and build their career. So what I did, since no one was willing to hire me, or I didn't have the qualifications, or the job was on the West Coast or the East Coast, I started my own company and I hired myself. I don't necessarily recommend starting your own company. It is an awesome experience. But I did that mostly because I wanted to continue forward with, what I was learning. I'm sorry, I know I'm screen sharing, but I need my notes. With what I was learning, and I didn't want to lose time there. I didn't want to go back to an old, or just any old job. For me, it's always been about, I need to know that I'm doing good in this world, that I'm giving back in this world. So in 2013-ish, I incorporated my company. I actually kind of started doing this work in 2011, but I incorporated my company in 2013. And that was, incorporating was the easy part. It was, kind of building that organization and being sure that I could, recognize those continuing opportunities there. What starting my company allowed me to do, it allowed me to consult not just for the field I was interested in, but also other areas as well. And there was a lot of different things that went into me identifying that. That was something that I wanted as well, was that, maybe waste management isn't exactly what I want to do. So while I was working as a freelance consultant for Ecossential Solutions is the company I incorporated, I also took on positions with food co-ops looking to increase membership so that they could open their first, open their doors and have their first stores and things like that. And it was a very interesting time. So that's my background. I have some finance in there. I'm currently now at DePaul to get my master's. I did dissolve Ecossential Solutions in 2018, and that was a twofold decision. It was personal and professional. Professionally, I felt like I had reached what I felt like I could achieve with where I was at, and I also recognized a big shift in the industry. Things were getting more tech oriented, more data analytic oriented, and I simply did not have that background. So that is why I am here at DePaul getting my master's in sustainable management. I'm also currently working for Diversified Waste Solutions, as Ginny so graciously mentioned, and I do a lot of account management with them in waste consulting. So that's where I'm at. And what I'm hoping to do from here is actually move out of this key manager role and back into sustainability. And that's really what I want to get into the nitty gritty about. And of course, if you have questions about, data analytics, anything like that, please let me know. Yes, I do. Thank you. We're not moving on yet. I don't have a slide for this. This is just me talking about my background. So some of the things that moved me forward and what I really wanted to talk to you all today is about that journey, that process that I went through. That's a lot of pieces. And there was a lot of moving things going on. And, I was in finance and then I wasn't in finance. And then I had my own company and the company was up and down sometimes depending on whether it was feast or famine. So I was also, I had a part-time job at Whole Foods for a little bit and I walked dogs for a little bit. And I ran a volunteer center or a volunteer program for a homeless shelter, all sorts of little things just to make that work. And what I wanted to kind of share with you all today are, the top resources that I actually ended up utilizing or that I could have utilized to make that better. I don't really want to spend too much time talking about sustainability. If you guys want to talk about sustainability, we can, but we are all in DePaul Net Impact. I'm assuming most of us have that background. You don't need me to preach to you why sustainability is so important. I just want to maybe give you some insight that could help you streamline your search a little bit. So this next slide is about the top resources. The biggest resource that I used that set myself apart from complete failure off the bat to pretty decent success for all of those years was the network that I built. This starts in school, this starts with your teachers, and this starts with your fellow students, and it also starts with your family members. You have to show up and you have to build connections with people, even if you don't want to. Like, you have to do it because that's going to open up those doors to opportunities that you didn't even know were available. And that means even if it's just an occasional email to a peer from a previous class or a LinkedIn comment, you just never know when someone in your circle is going to have an opportunity or advantage or connection that you can use. For instance, I attend as a lifelong volunteer and environmentalist. I used to attend these things called green drinks meetings. I don't know if anybody's been to a green drinks meeting. Well, they're all virtual now, but they're an international non-for-profit. They support communities and organizations and individuals who want to come together once a month, usually over drinks, hence the drinks, to discuss a sustainability and environmental feature. And I was going to these, and this one in particular that I was going to was hosted by a local environmental organization, the Environmental Defenders of McHenry County. Well, the Environmental Defenders of McHenry County were looking for a way to help their business members, their commercial membership, to be more sustainable and environmentally friendly in their daily operations. And one of the ways they wanted to do that was by promoting zero waste and landfill diversion, so recycling and composting. I got to talking to one of the members, and we struck up a deal where together we looked for a grant to fund a program, a commercial recycling advocacy program for their business members. That fund essentially paid me to consult on their behalf for their business members and to create this program. So I had no idea that going to this Green Drinks event was going to bring this, my first big paying gig. I had no idea that those conversations were going to lead to this amazing opportunity of helping this wonderful organization get a grant and put on this program. So truly, the network you build is the very first thing you're going to need. Some suggestions I have for you: seek out mentors. Definitely go through DePaul, go through CEC, ask any one of us leadership team here if we know anybody. get to know your classmates, or at least familiar enough that you can drop them a line, or, you know, meet up with them on LinkedIn, connect with them on LinkedIn, and pay attention to what they're doing. You know, when you see somebody that has a new job, hey, congratulations. You want to chat? You want to have a 5-minute call? Can we grab coffee? When you leave a job, always connect with your old colleagues before you leave, because again, you don't know where they're going, and you don't know, you know, what their opportunities or advantages are going to be for you. And the other thing I would say, it's tricky, but attending networking events and connecting with the speaker or someone in leadership at that event. So it's wonderful to go to networking events and talk to the other attendees and, you know, get their information and make those connections. But if you do one thing at any one of these networking events, connect with the speaker and connect with the people who put that on, because those people know people. Those are the people that you want to have in your inner circle. That was tremendous for me. I went to every networking event that I could. It can cost money, but many of them are free. Like, you can start going to some of these, even the first one, they'll typically let you, you know, join for the first one and see if you like it. And even that one can be a good step. Transitioning now from just like networking as if you were an entrepreneur. So that networking is great if you're an entrepreneur, but that networking is also key if you're trying to find a person in an organization that you want to work for that organization. The reason being, if you are putting your resume blindly into, you know, Glassdoor or LinkedIn or Indeed, or you're even just emailing it to the email that they provided for a resume, or for resumes, you have about a 2% chance of, you know, of having success there. So having a network, having someone with your name on the tip of their tongue, having someone inside on your behalf is key. And that's what that networking can do for you. My next recommendation for our top resource are these applicant tracking system check sites. So I have 3 here for you, and I'm going to give you a little breakdown. And if none of this is useful for me, stop me, you know, or useful for you, stop me. You know what I mean? Like, I just thought that this would be great information to share. So the first one is called, no, this is the one I like. It's called Skill Syncer, and it's skillsyncer.com. And I will send you all of these too at the end of this. This is a great site, because what this does is it takes your resume and you upload your resume, and then you upload a specific job description for a job you're about to apply to. And it runs it through, and it tells you, does your resume, how well does your resume match up with that? How likely are you to get through their applicant tracking system? This is why only 2% of these applications come back, you know, with a hire, because you first have to get through this computer. You have to get through the algorithm they have set up to weed people out. They're specifically set up to get rid of people. So what we have to do is make our resumes work that algorithm. It has to strut its stuff. It has to know what it's talking about. It has to walk the walk, talk the talk, have all the right keywords. So this site, Skill Syncer, is really cool because it tells you if your resume is holding up. You can do 1 a week for free. It's $51 a year, and you can do unlimited. So I thought that was super cool. The other one that I think is super, there's 3 total. The other one that I really like, it's a free account. This one scans your resume. It doesn't compare it to an exact job, but it'll scan your resume and it'll give you an idea. Are your soft skills good, represented enough? Are your hard skills represented enough? Is your layout a little, so it's only going to scan your resume, but it's free and you can do it as much as you want. So that's great. And this one is resumeworded.com. resumeworded.com. The last one is called Job Scan. And these are just the 3 that I like. I'm sure there's tons out here. This one is also free. When you sign up, you can get 5, they call them match rate. So how well do you rate with your, does your resume match to the job? You get 5 free at sign up, and then you get 2 of their match rate calculations free per month. And then you get 2 keyword comparisons per month. So it's a little bit, it's a little bit more limited than Skill Syncer, but it's completely free and you get a couple more a month there. So, and that's jobscan.co. This is essential because getting your foot in the door is just the first step, and getting your foot in the door is so hard in this digital age. I mean, job searching was getting more and more digital before COVID, and now we're here and it's essentially all digital. So the first thing you need to do is get your resume through there. If you have someone on the inside for you first, that's going to really set you apart. If you can get your application through this tracker, that's the other part. Everything else is, you know, I don't want to say it's just fluff, but everything else kind of falls into place from there. Those are the 2 big things that you have to do to get yourself in the door so you can show them who you are. So, I put them a little bit out of order. Once, you know, you've got your resume through the door, you know, you've got your network built, you're going to want to make sure that you're showcasing sustainability specific items outside of just I've had an internship here or I've had a job here. A big thing that a lot of companies are looking for are certifications in specific sustainability reporting, so social and environmental impact reporting. What am I talking about? I'm talking about things like the Carbon Disclosure Project, the Sustainability Accounting Standards Board, the Global Reporting Initiative, the International Standards, I forget what the O is, LEAD. There are so many organizations right now, not so much necessarily in America, but internationally for sure, that are industry specific or environmental project specific or social impact specific. And those items on a resume really set you apart, especially going through something like an ATS tracker. These things show that you've taken the time and the dedication to learn the very major reporting initiatives that a lot of these larger organizations rely on for a more standardized reporting system. So they want to be able to take what they're doing internally for their social and sustainability impact initiatives, and they want to be able to turn around and communicate that for better press, to show that they're living up to their mission for whatever reason that might be. And because of that, you know, we have to have these very specific standard boards. So you having knowledge in, you know, the CDP reporting is going to set you apart tenfold versus someone who doesn't have that kind of background. And you know, you don't have to be an expert. Don't let not being an expert make you feel like you don't know what you're talking about and you don't deserve that job. So even if you aren't matching all 10 items for, you have to have this background and this knowledge, let's say you've got 4 or 5 or 6, go with it, you know, fluff out your resume and still apply. Don't think you don't deserve it, and don't think you can't grow into that position, and don't think that there is an opportunity to learn within that position. So those certifications are so huge because it shows you have that dedication. I'm willing to take the extra step to go beyond just getting a degree, I kid. Willing to show that, you know, I know how to help you communicate what you're doing back out into the world. And they, you know, we all know they've got environment specific and industry specific. You're a professional and academic groups. So Net Impact is an international organization. We are DePaul Net Impact. We are a student group, but there's also a professional chapter here in Chicago. Join the professional chapter too. They do a little bit different events than us. So every chapter gets to do something different. You get to really make it your own. Join them, meet with those professionals, make those connections, come to our events. We have We have 2 representatives from the Shed Aquarium coming up soon. They're going to be talking about, environmental advocacy and policy and conservation activism, and how to help yourself find jobs. And those, I also specifically asked them to come with internship opportunities for our members and jobs and things like that. So come to our events too. And like I said, talk to the speaker, make that connection with the speaker. DePaul has tons of school groups. So if you, like me, want to, well, I'm already in consulting, but if you want to break into consulting or you're on the path for consulting, we have a consulting school group here. We have legal groups. We have groups for individuals interested in sustainable textiles and fashion. Not only will those look really good on your resume, they're going to help you build your network. Like that twofer there. The other thing I highly recommend relying on are free resources. When I started my company, literally I had zero, well, I take that back. I had a 401k worth $3,000, woo-hoo, and I took that out and I paid a penalty on it, and I used that tiny little bit of capital to get me started. And because it was such a small amount of capital, which I'm very grateful I was very grateful to have that opportunity. A lot of people start with less than that, but it really was like starting it with $0 because that capital immediately went out the door. I relied so heavily on free events. So when I saw a networking group I wanted to be in, I would reach out to them. Hi, I'm interested in your group. Can I come for free? Can I check you out for free? Free events and webinars. So if you're following your organizations, follow your organizations that you want to work for. Follow them on LinkedIn. Sign up for their newsletters. You don't have to constantly be involved with them, but keep an eye out for if they have an event. Because if you can go to the event, you can network with people who are in the organization. And that's just a threefer right there. That's networking, free event, and you've just made a connection. That's huge. So I used a lot of free events and webinars. There's a lot of things, I don't know if white pages are still really big, but white pages are a great way to get a background in something very quickly. So let's say, you only hit 4 or 5 or 6 out of 10 on their list of things that they would like for an applicant. And there's a couple in there that you're not really familiar with. Get yourself familiar with it a little bit, and go in and be honest, let them know I do have some understanding of that, willing and open to become more involved. And white pages are great for that. The library. Oh my God, I love the librarians. I love librarians. In my notes, it says the librarians, !heart, because especially DePaul librarians, they know so much. They can do so much more than just help you with, I have a research project, or how do I navigate EBSCOhost. They can point you in the direction of internal DePaul resources. They can point you in the direction of professional journals. They can point you in the direction of resume checks. What would be the best, department to go to for this mentor request or this internship request. I love the librarians. Like, they are phenomenal. Definitely use DePaul librarians because they're awesome. Another thing that I relied on heavily as far as free resources go were like activities at the library. So I go to my local library every time a new Excel comes out or Microsoft comes out with some updates, because I'm not going to be able to teach myself. They always have free classes on that stuff, free classes on QuickBooks. We as DePaul students have free LinkedIn classes. Use them. There's a lot of smart people sharing information there. And you got to ask smart people simple questions, because that's how you're going to set yourself apart too. The last thing that I didn't put on here, but I really feel like it's essential, is time. That's something I've always struggled with. When I first started shifting away from owning my own company, well, really when I first started applying for jobs, I was kind of just, like, I've got my resume. This is how my resume looks. This is how my cover letter looks. It's very generic. I can send it to all of you and I don't have to change anything. Don't do that. Don't do that. Learn from my mistake. Take the time to sift through the job post and have your resume reflect that job. If you have to change out a couple keywords, do it. make sure that, and don't lie, but make sure that, you know, your resume is in line with what they're specifically asking for, and do a cover letter. Do a cover letter, customize the cover letter. It's going to set you apart. All of those little things show that dedication. And if you've taken enough time to dedicate yourself to applying to their job, they're more inclined to hear more from you. And send a thank you. Like that, I know that's so, I know I don't need to tell you, but I'm telling you, send a thank you. It really does help. So those were the 5 things that off the bat, when I think about what I needed to do to start my company, this was it. And oh, here's that. 2% of job hunters are hired from applying through online job portals. And that came from our career management center here. That was a stat I got from them, and I checked into it and I verified it, and that was haunting. So how did I start my company? I took some time, years of contemplation. I really didn't know how was this going to work? So I started looking into other companies that do what I wanted to do. I made a list of sustainability consultants in Illinois, in the entire state of Illinois, that were registered. And in 2012, that was like 100. That's not a lot. I took the time to, you know, sit down and look at, was there even a market for this? So that looked like me going into different, you know, music festivals and seeing how many music festivals were trying to commit to green teams, and how many music festivals are, you know, how many festivals happen in Chicago? How many of them have a green team? And that took a lot of time building that strategy. Know what your strategy is going to be. You really have to know, and this is great also for just job hunting in general. Do the market research. What jobs are out there? What are their salaries like? Is that industry growing? Is it not? Are there new technologies coming out? So for me, as a freelance consultant, I'm now pivoting to a data analyst, because that's essentially what I do. And that's what I've always done. I just didn't know that that was the title. So now I'm taking courses specifically for data analytics, data processing, and also communication, because I need to make sure that I'm communicating this effectively to my clients. So the market research and knowing your strategy are key for starting your own business and for applying for jobs. I also, when I had a little bit of money, I hired people to do what I couldn't. So I sucked at doing the books. I was terrible at record keeping. Money was not my forte. That kind of stuff was just right over my head. So I would hire people, and quite frankly, I haggled. When I was incorporating my business, I did a lot of research into what kind of business I wanted to incorporate it. I did incorporate as an S Corp because I wanted it to be a separate entity. I wanted all the taxation to flow right through there. I didn't want to have to deal with, you know, figuring out how to pay myself plus take out my own tax. It all went right through the business, and I paid someone to do all that. But what I did is I talked to a couple lawyers, and I also went on LegalZoom, and I saw how much LegalZoom charged for it. And I got some quotes from these lawyers, and I went back to them and I said, you know, I really want to do this with you because I really want to work with you and have your insight. But I did see here, you know, I could possibly do this for this price in this way. And I actually had 1 or 2 come back and say, I can honor that price for you. So get creative. Like I didn't hire people like I had money flying out. I hired people within my budget to do what I couldn't do. I networked everywhere, like I talked about. Everywhere I went, I stood up and talked about my business any chance I could. Any chance you can talk to people about what you want to do, about who you are, what you can offer them, do it, and do it everywhere. If someone says, does anyone have something else to say, like Dwight Schrute in The Office at Jim and Pam's wedding when they're at the end, or was it the wedding? Either case, they're all in church and they're talking about, you know, does anyone have anything else to say? And he stood up and started talking about selling paper. Be Dwight, do that. Just do it. Talk about yourself everywhere. And don't feel afraid to ask for referrals. So let's say you built your amazing resume and you ran it through your ATS check site and you got your interview. and you got an internship, or you got a job, or you met some, whatever it might be. And let's say you're now moving on from that. So the internship is over, or, perhaps the job didn't necessarily work out the way you wanted it, whatever it might be. You're moving on, or you're wrapping up a project for a client. Ask for referrals. Have them give you someone they know, straight up ask your mentor, or ask not your mentor, ask the person running your internship at the end of it. What can I do to either get hired here, or who can you put me into contact with who can hire me? It doesn't hurt to ask. And I think in this scenario, it's not uncouth, because it's a professional scenario. You are in that internship, you're in that role, you're in that interview. Maybe don't ask it in an interview, but you're in that role to build a career. You're building your professional network. So ask for referrals. The best thing I did for my company when it really started taking off, when I had a successful event, we do our wrap-up calls, and all the thank yous would come in, or hopefully they would come in. I would always end with the biggest thank you that you can give me is a referral for another client. A testimonial is great, but if you can connect me with someone that you know who will hire me or do this or that, please do. And then track everything and turn it into your story. Whatever you do, whatever project you worked on, whether it was a tiny little ducat of something, if you made progress somewhere, if you did something that set yourself apart or that was successful, track it, put it in an Excel spreadsheet, date it, use it as your story.
Okay, so I'd love to open it up for questions now.
Yeah, because I'm done.
So I have some questions I'd love to ask, but first I want to let our other attendees ask them. So anybody shoot away. The chat is still open if you'd like to do it there, or go right ahead.
I'm going to stop sharing. Oh, I found you all. Yeah, feel free. I mean, if there's anything you want to know, or if there's anything that you're struggling with in your search right now, is everyone actively, and you can just type yes into here. Oh, hi, Birdie. Is everyone actively looking for jobs right now, or are we just looking for internships, or what is everyone looking for?
I guess I'll just start this conversation. I'm looking for an internship for the summer. And so you guys can let us know in the chat, or just, speak like I just did.
Yeah. Or any questions also about starting your own business. Do you have any questions for her about that, or anything? I will start with a question. Let everyone else kind of get through. So one of my biggest questions that I've had for you ever since I found out that you started your own business was, what gave you the idea? It sounds like you focused on festivals. So what gave you the idea, and kind of was the impetus for you saying, oh, this is somewhere where I can start my own service and do, kind of my own endeavor in this area?
Yeah. So I started with what I loved. I love going to music festivals. I have been going to music festivals since I was 15. I've adored them, and I've always also hated them simultaneously, because for me, going to an event like that was about community and sharing in music and art and being in nature. And what I saw was people having a party outdoors, and they were just there for their own selfish needs and trashed the place. So that's what sparked it. I was in business school. I was constantly debating my professors and my peers about, no, stakeholders are not the bottom line. We're all the bottom line. And then I was going to music festivals and fighting with attendees, pick up your cigarette butt. Why did you just throw that? Why aren't you picking up? I just noticed that I was constantly, I was so much fun at music festivals, let me tell you.
Sounds like you had a great time, Teagen.
You're
whatever.
I hope you managed to enjoy the music while you were also angry at everyone around you.
I was, I'd pick up a cup and be like, "Ma, yeah." Freeze, yeah, you know. So it really sparked, and I would say this to anyone, you know, don't go into a field or start a company for something that you don't like doing. Like, you're not going to be successful at that.
Yeah.
It came from that.
Yeah.
I loved music festivals. I got to do that one for my friend, and I was like, yes. And we made a huge impact. I mean, in that first year, we had, granted, we still had a lot of garbage. It was my very first year doing this, but I diverted 50% of the waste from that event into recycling streams. And then I got to work for Summer Camp Music and Arts Festival, and we started a program with the Girl Scouts and Boy Scouts in the area. So all of those tents and chairs that people would just abandon, we would go in and collect them and donate them to the Scouts. And so it really was just a labor of love. Yeah, that's really where, and I definitely don't recommend starting a company for something that you don't have passion for. Just because you see it can be successful doesn't mean it will be. And if you don't love it, you're not going to have that dedication to it.
Mm-hmm.
Also, so then, like, how was your like method for diverting? So were you trying to get people to put things in different bins, or just kind of like more traditional, or like how did you do that?
So this took years and years of refining. And that's something, when you start a company, you're going to constantly have to ask yourself, knowing what I know now, would I start doing, like, knowing what I know now, let's say I was starting over again with this knowledge, would I start doing this project or this company this way, knowing what I know now, or would I do it a little bit different? And that kept happening, and that happened with every event. So I started with just setting up recycling cans and garbage cans, and recognizing, okay, well, there's still so much contamination. So I developed a specific waste station that was color coded. It had colors and shapes, and the blue triangle was glass, and that was it. And the red circle was lamp, and that was it. And then, you know, I realized, okay, well, we're still having contamination. So we developed it even further, and we had a sorting center. So we would take all of this recycling back, and we would hand sort it. And it was a big mess. And people hated me. And now, knowing what I know now, I didn't realize this, but I was actually getting to the heart of trying to change people's paradigms. The cleanest, you would get, you know, tickets to next year's event, or VIP passes, or you know, you got to meet your favorite band, you got to choose and meet them. You're very welcome, Violet. I don't know if you're still here, Violet, but you are so welcome. Yes. Do you have a question?
Oh, sorry. I don't have any questions, but thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. I love your bird.
Thank you. Sorry, he was distracting.
You're fine. I'm surprised I don't have a cat jumped up here right now, because that normally happens too. But yeah, I think we're all in a very, very frustrating place right now. I will tell you, I have been on this journey since 2012. So it's been a long time that I've been also navigating this. And I still am looking for my dream job. I mean, I loved being a business owner, but it was very taxing. And, you know, it's just one of those things where you can't give up. And you can't give up because we need to be in this field, and this field needs us to be in this field. And it's still new, and it's still young. Like, we know it's been around for a while, but it's actually a very young industry and a young field. And Ginny and I talk about this a lot. There's no linear path. This whole thing it's a Jeremy Bearimy of an industry. It's wibbly wobbly, and there's really no way to navigate it. But you can't give up, because every step you take, coming to this webinar was one little step in your long journey, and it's going to get you there in the end. And we need us, and we need you. And no one's saying it's going to be short, and no one's saying it's going to be easy, but it's going to be worth it, because at the end, you're going to be giving back to this world. Your legacy is going to be protecting the planet and protecting it for future generations. So it's frustrating. It's so frustrating, but don't give up, because it just keeps taking you to neat places.
Well, also, I think, another thing that I hope we impart with this session is also, Teagen is one of us, and she started her own company. You can too. If you see, there are resources. The Coleman Entrepreneurship Center is an enormous resource. If you have an idea, or if you want to work in, entrepreneurial companies, that's also another way to go about it, and kind of learn about entrepreneurship and get experience in entrepreneurship before you actually like get your idea or find your partner or whatever. You can do it. And I think I see a lot of ladies joining us today, and I hope that you as young women can start a venture and can make your own space. And I think this is, as a newer field, sustainability, and impact as a field is relatively young. It's only become a thing in like the last 10 years. I worked over the summer. I interned for a social entrepreneur, and he was doing it before there was that term. He's had his company for 20 years. And when he started, nobody else was doing it. And he's the only person that I've heard of who's had a sustainable focused business for that long, because most of them are relatively new.
Yeah.
And it's only become a thing in like the last decade or so. When, of course, when it comes to business, that's, when it comes to technological time, that's a million years. But when it comes to, business and economy as a whole, that's a fresh, brand new baby. So I think, don't be afraid of just getting in there and dipping your toes in, and getting involved where you can, and building and making your own path. Because I think that's going to be a big feature of going into this industry and having a career with impact, is you have to build it yourself. I'm sorry to say.
Yeah.
It's not a direct path, but it means you are in charge of your own destiny, and you are in charge of your own direction, because there is somewhere where you can forge a path. If you want to go in accounting and you want to do something in accounting that's, completely new and different, that is a very hard mountain to climb, because accounting is accounting, right? Or finance, that even in ESG finance, they're still having to really carve a whole new path. But it's a much tougher mountain to climb than I think it is if you're wanting to go into like a social entrepreneurship. And if you have an idea, reach out to us, because we want to hear from you. We want to participate in it. We will join you.
We'll be your team.
Yeah.
Were there any other questions?
Oh, I have a really quick question.
Yes, of course.
So when you started your business and you said that you only had like $3,000 to start it, did you have like the mindset like, oh my God, I only have $3,000, like I need to make it work? Or were you more like optimistic about it being like an investment in what you were doing?
It was definitely both. And it depended on the day, truly. No, there were, when I took those funds out, I actually spent, like I said, do your market research. So before I took those funds out, I looked at how was I going to market myself, and what did those channels cost? So I looked into what it cost, to professionally market on Facebook, how much it cost to pay Google for good SEO, because those things cost money. I looked into how I was going to promote across multiple social media platforms, and how much was that going to cost. So I found a free resource called Hootsuite, and that lets you make one post and send it to multiple platforms. When I started growing, I needed to pay for that. So I want to say I was mostly optimistic, always a little timid, but mostly optimistic, because I planned ahead for that. I knew that $3,000 was only going to last me 1 year if I was lucky. because I also looked into the networking groups. I asked them how much their fees were. I started tracking all my mileage and making sure that, you know, I was factoring in how much it was going to cost for me and my little car, my little Scion XA. So mostly optimistic because one, it's going to set you apart, and two, I did planning, and I kind of put it in my mind like, okay, if at the end of this year I've spent this $3,000 and I haven't gotten anywhere, well, you know, that's that, and I can approach that bridge. I can either pivot and keep doing that, or pivot and not do this, or I can rethink this. So planning ahead of time, generalizing your cost is going to really help you be prepared, especially for that first year or two, and have confidence and not always be scared. It also helps you be more objective about what jobs you're going to take. I did not take every job that I came across in the first couple years because some of those jobs were not worth my time. What I mean is I looked at how much is it going to cost me in hours and drive time and resources for me to set up your program versus how much are you paying me back? Am I going to have to hire a couple people for this event because you have a 30,000 person event? I can't run that whole thing on my own. So it helped me to also be like, that's not good for me, but this is. So a little bit of both, but yeah, mostly optimism because I planned.
And then Teagen, like, what about like people in like, you know, your friend group or like your family, like how did you get them on board? Because like I know even like being at DePaul, like I switched my majors and there was like a couple times like really hard conversations where like, hey, like this is what I want to do. Like, how did you approach that? Like switching different like avenues?
So I don't know if it's just my personality, but friends and family in my world, in my life, pretty much when I'm like, I have this idea, they're like, okay, that's what we're going. That's what she's doing. We're supporting it. So my parents invested $1,000 into my business. I'm very, very beyond grateful that I had that opportunity and that my family had those resources. But I mean, they were mostly like, yeah, but there were a couple times where, you know, I had my now husband, then boyfriend, I'd have this great idea. I'm like, I'm going to build this sorting machine, this table, and it's going to have water and do all this crazy stuff. And he would just very gently, you know, put it in my head, like, well, what if you did this instead because it's more economical? Or what if, and he wouldn't always get to my brain the first time, but he, you know, very, you know, gently kept reminding me. And what I did over time, and I'm not always good at this, I wasn't always good at this, is just being open to thinking about what they're saying. The people who are closest to you care about you and have an objective view. Like a lot of times you get so into it, but these individuals love you, hopefully. I hope that they're in your life and they love you. And they're kind of able to give you a bird's eye view of what you're getting yourself into. So even if you're not ready in that moment to say, yeah, you're right, hear it, take it with you and think about it and ruminate on it and, you know, let that develop into your decision making. So, you know, they really didn't have much sway in what I was going to do or not do, but I did try to remain open to those people who were giving me advice or pointing out flaws. Like when someone that you love is saying, hey, maybe that's not the best way to do it, know that it came from a really good place and it's probably something to think on. So, you know, just try to stay open.
Well, and also overcoming that initial defensive response.
Yeah, I'm a very defensive person. So yeah.
All right.
And that's why.
Oh, I was just going to say, we're getting close to time to wrap it up. So I think we have time for one more question, if there is one.
No worries.
All right.
I'm always available via email.
Yeah, so the session will be recorded, or has been recorded, excuse me. So so we can watch it later. Please tell your friends it's available if they weren't able to make it today. And please find us online and join us. And we send out a newsletter with all of our upcoming things and all of our ideas. Yeah, Bird, that's true.
Yeah.
Nodding with
That's
Bird.
it.
Thank you again so much, everyone, for joining us. And thank you, Teagen, of course, for sharing your experiences and insights.
Thank you all very much for having me and for coming here tonight. The imposter syndrome is real. So I'm appreciative that you wanted to hear me flap my gums a little bit. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much, Teagen.
Bye.